Welcome to Inside College Admission, conversations with admission leaders about matters affecting the college-going process. My name is Peter Van Buskirk, and I'm joined today by Ann Fleming Brown, who's the Director of Admission and a longtime friend, but a Director of Admission at Union College. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Peter. Glad to be with you.
Well, I'm glad to be able to catch up with you on what is bound to be a very busy day for you. But how are you feeling on April the 2nd? Isn't this supposed to be a time when you kind of exhale a little bit and get ready for a big party on campus?
Well, it would be wonderful to welcome students to campus for a big open house. What I can say is this year our calendar changed a little bit, and we did have a party in February for admitted students. So
Lovely.
we enjoyed 500 visitors that day, but we would have wished to welcome many more during this month of April. And Union's campus is quiet. Of our 2,200 students, there are only about 65 who are still living on campus, and all of our instruction's online, all of our student activities online, all of our residential curriculum is going online.
We don't need a campus anymore.
Oh my, well, I'm going to miss the beautiful campus of Union College for the time that I'm at home, but I can say when students finally get back to the brick and mortar facility, it's going to look wonderful to them.
Okay, there's something about the energy of the young people on campus that just
Yes,
brings things to life in a beautiful way.
yes.
I'm curious to help us to understand the decision making with regard to the online piece for you, and I would imagine that your early open house was probably directed at maybe some early decision, early action kind of kids.
They were indeed. It was early action and early decision students. And the online instruction comes partly because we are in the state of New York
Mm.
and ruled by the governor's decision to close the campus and have all non-essential employees at home.
But when did that
I
decision come? That's what I'm wondering about.
say one more time.
When did you get that edict and know that you needed to change the way you did business?
It came in the middle of March,
Mm.
and slowly over the period of a week, we started to have people work from home. And the senior leadership met many, many hours every day to decide what the next steps would be. And when the governor finally said only essential employees may work, one of the lovely things was for one professor who said, I am essential
Mm.
under any and all circumstances. And I love the attitude that the academic life of the college is essential and happily is continuing through various online modems.
Was it much of a challenge for the academic program to transition to online?
It is a challenge. I can say one of our professors in sculpture said sculpture is not a discipline that is well taught online. And he is working in his own studio, but students are working with him online. Another area of challenge for our professors has been the ability to use the laboratories and how the laboratory learning will be converted for this term. We hope this term only to a demonstration mode. Um, One professor told me he was sending little elements for an experiment to all of the students so that they would have the particular piece they needed to do the experiment at home. So maybe their students are getting out their high school chemistry sets, but they're going to be doing experiments in their home settings. They're going to be doing learning from professors, both what's called synchronously, everyone together, and asynchronously with some video portions.
I would imagine that's raising some eyebrows among parents at home as they get the little beakers out and start to pour the chemicals and see the smoke and the steam arising. And yeah, well, you've got to be inventive at times like this. And it sounds like
Absolutely.
bonding well. So your campus is basically empty except for about 65 people, right?
Yes,
That's
that's so.
tough because right now it should be the place where the party is, right? I mean, you want to be able to hug those kids you just admitted and show them around and they say this can be yours too for the next 4 years.
That
Uh,
is so, so true. And students, so in this day and age, they want to get that second look. They want to drive the car around one more time before they buy it. And even for those who visited, loved it, and know it's a wonderful choice for them, they still would like to make that one confirming visit,
Mhm.
whether it's to meet a professor or see a class or have questions answered by financial aid. They just want to touch the people and the campus experience one more time.
Wow. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but before we get into that, um, from my experience, and I suspect your long experience as well, you know that there are certain things we do as a matter of habit in our work, and the last 2 months in particular has kind of ripped the habits off of us, I guess.
Mhm.
What have been the biggest pandemic related challenges that union continues to face, and may have faced already as you proceed with enrolling the class of 2024?
Well, the biggest challenges are the ones for the families as they're looking at how to choose a college. I think if we were to throw back to another generation or to consider even the experience of international students in recent years, families and students did not need to revisit a college in the spring to make a decision. They went ahead and made the decision based on one fall visit or information that they read in catalogs and brochures. And they chose colleges based on those qualities. Increasingly, I think students feel there's a magic fit for colleges and that coming back and returning is going to make the difference. So we've scrambled to an entirely new format. First, to answer the questions that students have. Will the college open in the fall? What about the grades for my spring term courses? What if I don't have an athletics season this spring? How am I going to bring forward the things that I needed to do before I came to college?
Mhm.
That's one set of questions. Another is whether we'll be able to welcome students in the fall. And this question has been particularly pertinent for international students waiting for visa interviews and thinking about what that process will mean. And Union has opened now to allowing students to enter in the fall and again in January. So that will be one solution for those students. There are lots of questions we have not yet imagined about what will happen for students as they travel from all 50 states and then also from many countries to come to Union. Another factor is people have been looking at this time of insecurity. I just noticed every email I receive, it might be an ordinary email with a question about the college that will mention these challenging times or these times of uncertainty in the email as a piece of the puzzle. I'm sorry to ask this ordinary question in this difficult time, but I hope students will ask the ordinary questions and will find the answers to the things that are most concerning to them. But the one thing that I'm hearing frequently is the concern that financial circumstances may have changed for families over time. And when they filled out the financial aid forms, they used information from 2018. And I spoke to one mother, and we finally started laughing. I said, "You had a very good year in 2018." She said, "I certainly did, but 2020 is not looking as good." And those change of circumstances and need to make an appeal and redirect questions to financial aid have become so important.
So, you've mentioned a number of things that I'd like to kind of drill down to a little bit more.
Sure.
And again, excuse me, thinking about um, the class that you're working on enrolling right now,
Mhm.
you alluded to some of the things that you anticipate with regard to engaging the kids, but more fundamentally, as you've worked with your colleagues to model the class, and I from years ago remember that models are important, and you're working on yield for different factors and doing a lot of predictive analytics with this, but all of it's based on things that have happened historically.
Yes.
And it would appear this year that all of those models are worthless, or am I wrong?
We were in a slightly different situation this year. You mentioned that we'd had attendance from early action students in our February open house. This
Mhm.
is the very first cycle that we had offered early action as an option. So many students applied in November, and we enjoyed some increase in the number of applications that we had. So we were in a new modeling world in the sense that we did not know how to model for the students who were admitted early action. We hoped that they would come to Union in the same numbers as other students, but we'd never tested that before. So because of that, we admitted a few additional students. But it's hard to know now as students make decisions whether they will make decisions to stay closer to home, to be in an environment where they're nearer to family. Those kinds of questions are things we certainly never considered in our models.
Well, and those questions may not be as relevant today to those students as they will be a month from now or 2 months from now. Uh,
True.
have you have you done anything with your enrollment deadline? Are you changing fees or anything like that, or are things kind of standard for students in terms of May 1 and that sort of thing?
We're looking at May 1 for the enrollment date, and there are many reasons for that. I know lots of colleges had hoped that students would be able to visit in May and then extended their deadlines to June. As that becomes less likely, I think it's clear that making a decision is going to be what's most important for students, that they get a sense of normalcy and know that they can go forward into going to college, that
Mhm.
they are going to go to college, that college is going to be a full and rich experience for them. So May 1st is our deadline for this year. And that's where we're headed there. I mentioned the possibility that some students may be coming late for any number of reasons. Certainly, we believe that some international students will need to enter later than anticipated. The question would be, would there be limitations in certain states around travel? And that's another thing that we're considering, not only from the enrollment standpoint, but from having orientations, from student affairs, from offering classes to a cohort who may enter a little bit late. Those are all things that are being discussed at the college right now.
Any chance this could be the year of the wait list?
That's another reason to go with that May 1st date. All the students who wait for the decisions relating to the wait list, for those schools that have chosen to push it a little later, I know they did that with great optimism and kindness toward our applicants, but they'll never get to the wait list, will they? It'll be the middle of the summer and we'll still be talking to students about which colleges they're choosing. I think we're probably also going to hear from many more students in that informal way. Students saying, do you have room for an extra student now? Could I apply at this point? I think that they'll just start to throw more balls up into the air and try a few more things. Students who, for example, I had a call recently from a student whose hockey season had ended in juniors hockey, and now he needs to go to college. And should he be a late applicant to the college? Those are the kinds of things I'm expecting.
You don't care about hockey, so that doesn't matter, right?
No, as we all know, Union is a past national championship winner in men's ice hockey. We beat the University of Minnesota in the finals, and it will never be forgotten and is mentioned every day at Union College.
And again, every day. That's right.
2014.
It's interesting. In an earlier conversation, I heard reference to a school that has already gone to the wait list.
Interesting.
So it, one might imagine that all the rules and conventions with regard to the making of the commitment could maybe kind of go out the window in to some degree, that this could be a rolling enrollment process right up to the start of classes. And I think the
Mm.
Department of Justice edict kind of set us on that course even before the COVID introduced itself. Do you think there's going to be some element of the Wild Wild West this year?
I think so. I think that this particular set of events has added to that. For Union, we decided to have a higher deposit this year. We doubled the amount of our deposit for students coming to Union in hopes that they'd be less attracted by other colleges or other college offers. I think there also needs to be, for any student looking at colleges, this is going to be a very difficult time to look at college's financial solvency.
Hmm.
and how colleges are going to get to the other side of this time of great additional spending on the part of the college, tremendous financial needs, and I hope colleges have the endowments and support to cover that.
You're certainly not in a position to at least legally print money. So,
No,
no.
no, no.
Well, the conversation you had with that you reported with the woman earlier who was feeling like 2018 surely was a good year, but
Yes.
2020 is not shaping up so well. It's probably a revelation that's being experienced by tens of thousands of people around the country right now. And it's just hard to imagine how individually or collectively higher education can accommodate that. Maybe we need to talk to Congress about another appropriation to support, you know, the tuition situation for colleges in light of lost income.
Well, this would not be the first time that you and I had discussed the very way in which colleges are funded,
Yeah,
relying so heavily on tuition-based income to progress as a business to keep that industry, our industry afloat. I think that's the critical problem for colleges is that we rely on our funding model as it goes up by such and such 2%, 3%, 5% per year is out of the realm of affordability for the vast majority of families in the United States.
yeah. Well, hopefully there's an opportunity to find some solution that is palatable for most of the families you're dealing with there, and that they
Yes. You know, we're fortunate at Union to do what's called meet full need based on the CSS profile. Of course, that's not necessarily what makes it doable for a family, but it certainly is an advantageous. We're glad we're able to do that.
very good. Now, for those kids who are accepted, are eager to kick the tires one more time, eager to
Yeah.
come ahead, seniors, what are you doing for them? I mean, how can they feel like they have that in-person experience before they make the final decision, or is it just they have to use their imagination this year?
Well, we're doing everything we can possibly imagine.
Hmm.
We're doing all kinds of panels. We're offering all kinds of academic opportunities. We have one-on-one meetings with faculty members, with students, with admissions people. We have an array of videotapes, which we were just able to make right before our college was closed. A videotaped tour, a videotaped group information session, faculty members. We have a faculty member who has videotaped himself teaching a first year class, which will go up in 6 stages. So you can actually take his class, much of his class online. We are going to be adding all kinds of things. Starting this week, we'll have virtual tours with 2 tour guides on Zoom offering a tour to students. Every chance we get to connect with students, we're going to be there for that opportunity. And we're trying to imagine what the questions may have been and what needs to be answered. So we collect questions before we do a panel. Last week, the senior leadership spoke to a large group of people through Zoom and talked about what has been going on with us for the last 2 weeks and what's planned for the fall. And then we'll have a big student panel. It's every night of the month is busy with something. We're trying our best only to give a reprieve for the religious holidays.
Wow, you make me tired just talking. Does this make your day shorter, longer, more efficient, less efficient?
One thing that admissions professionals do so much in the spring is travel. We
Mm.
travel to college fairs, we travel to do case studies programs, we travel to do school visits. Some of my colleagues at Union have been doing school visits. Some of the international recruiters have been doing school visits at wonderful middle of the night times, presenting to schools around the world. So we have lots of opportunities to try to reach out to the prospective students. But because we're not traveling, I would say the work is very intense, but we're not sleeping in hotels. Every single person on the staff has been so creative in thinking of ways to share the union experience. One of my younger colleagues who graduated almost 2 years ago from union made a little videotape reel of her own 4 years at the college to share. So each person has come up with great ideas and taken a lot of duty. And I think you would say on a duty day, which might happen 3 times a week, you might have as many as 6 possible things going on. So, yes, we are busy, but we're also happy to be sharing the story.
Wow. Uh, we're sort of the same era in terms of when we started in this.
Yes.
I just think back to the mag cards that we used to put information into computers, and I'm not going to reveal the year, but a long, long, long time ago,
Yes.
we'll be doing virtual experiences covering a 4-year college experience or even a year, or a professor doing a class all together. But just amazing, amazing. And kudos to you guys for figuring that out. But this is a good segue though too. And I think I know where you may go with this, but no sooner do you wrap up the class that's enrolling now than you need to get on the ball for the next class. And all those things that you would normally do in the spring or the summer or the fall, the high school visits and the college nights, college fairs, open houses, case study programs, all that's kind of in jeopardy. And I would imagine just trying to manage a schedule right now is daunting. But do you have any general orientation beyond what you've already expressed that you want to share about how you might find yourself reaching out to students, the next class of students?
Well, we're starting with some group information sessions, and ordinarily we do not open interviews to juniors until after May 1st, when the seniors would have finished their decisions, but we're opening them next Monday in case a junior would like to have an interview earlier on. And we can interview by any of the different communications platforms. It's a little hard for me when if I have to hold my phone up and take notes at the same time, but I think I figured out the various ways of doing it better. And we're going to start to try to create online open houses as we would have had. But we also don't think that families are going to sit for 4 or 5 hours in front of a computer to see the entire open house. So some creative minds are starting to figure out how that might best be shared,
Mhm.
different things that might be helpful for prospective students as we go forward in the different open houses that we would offer a little bit later on.
Mhm.
And then we're hopeful that in the summer we'll be able to show off our campus to its full advantage. Um, Perhaps this group of students will get even more attention than the students ordinarily get. That
Well,
would be a wonderful thing for their learning.
you're right. And as I've been talking with you and your counterparts at other schools, that's been coming through, I think, pretty clearly, is that there are new and inventive ways to reach out and make the process an even more personal process than we might have imagined. So
Yes.
that's got to be an exciting thing for you and your colleagues to consider.
Well, it's also a throwback to that time that you described when meeting the student
Hmm.
was a very important part of the admission process,
Hmm.
whether it was an interview or a campus visit or sitting down to speak with a student at a school visit. It wasn't enrollment management. It was talking to students about what they're thinking about and what they're learning, what they want to learn, and what kind of college experience they'd like to have.
They called it college admission back then.
Yes.
Well, you know, one of the questions that I've heard raised a number of times by rising high school seniors has to do with testing and concern about how am I going to improve my score if tests aren't offered again. My SAT or my ACT was okay, but I'd like to take a shot at improving an overall score. Um, and again, more uncertainty. When is that whole schedule going to open up again? Is Union offering any accommodation for students who might otherwise be presenting what for them might be regarded as incomplete testing profiles?
Union has been fully test optional for the last 12 years.
Big soft.
And
Yeah.
the students typically who enroll at Union those who enroll, 40% did not submit standardized tests.
Really? Okay.
There is one program we have. We have a combined medical program with Albany Medical College here in our area, and they're going to waive the requirement that they have for subject tests this coming year, knowing that students may have only a very few test dates to get to. There's also a very creative solution for international students who are going to be able to do a combination of a Duolingo and an initial view interview to generate sufficient testing for us. So if a student needs to present testing, for example, English language testing, and that's not available, or if a student wants to submit testing because they're very highly accomplished in that area, we're ready to receive it, but we're also very willing to work with them with no testing at all.
Mhm.
Our calculation of academic merit and the few merit scholarships that we give do not rely on standardized testing. So for us, we're more flexible. That doesn't take away the worry that students have, though, does it? I mean, just because it's optional doesn't mean they're not thinking about it and worrying about it. And I think they can just do the best they can in terms of getting any opportunity and know that there are many. Now there'll be thousands of colleges that are going to be test flexible in the coming year.
We had when I was at Franklin and Marshall the experience of going test optional as you've had now as well. And I often would get questions from kids who would say, "Well, if I don't send my scores in, won't you assume they're low?" How do you answer that?
It's like guessing the jelly beans in the jar.
Right. Okay.
You might be a good guesser, but you might also be quite a bad guesser.
Mm.
And so I actually spend no time thinking about what the test scores might be. And I spent a lot of time on the academic preparation and performance. And although some students will have fewer grades as they go forward in the spring, lots of students will have 3 and 4 years of grades to show us and the work they've done in school and their writing. We're looking forward to seeing all of the things that make a quality application. And we don't have to have the testing to make a decision. Now, we're in an advantageous position at Union. We have about 8,000 applications. If we had 28,000 applications, we might need to use testing to differentiate more directly among students. But happily, we can go ahead and look at what has been at the heart of it all along, the academic record.
A corollary question that I'd like to ask, and it has to do with advanced placement now,
Mm.
because I think it's got to be tempting for kids who are kind of looking at an open-ended junior year completion and not even sure what the start of the senior year will be like, and are thinking, well, would it make sense for me to do some online advanced placement work, maybe sit for the online AP exam? How will colleges respond to that? What is your thought about that?
It's such an interesting question because is the focus on the college credit, which you might get from taking the exam? For example, Union typically would offer credit for most exams for a score of 4 or 5. Or is the focus on your interest in learning the material?
Or
And
or is the focus on making a good impression to the admission office?
wow, I, I think sometimes students think we don't know their tricks, right?
Right.
So a student might choose to join 7 clubs or activities in the senior year. And guess what? We know that that's just padding the resume.
Mhm.
On the other hand, studying, if you have time on your hands, studying a discipline you love. Oh, we just heard from a student recently who was talking to us online who has decided to go after a Duolingo course in Spanish because he just wants to learn Spanish during this time when he had more time. If you can show me you've made good use of your time, I'd rather it be that than something that you think is going to make college admissions officers turn their heads. Because the things that turn our heads are things you cannot imagine. They might be generosity or kindness or a talent that you're not even imagining.
Authenticity.
Authenticity. I mean, always, it's hard when you think you're being evaluated, but of course, be the best you can be. Yeah.
uh, Great advice. Great advice. Well, it, one final thought I'd like to explore with you a little bit before we wrap up, and that is, uh, as we get to what we hope will be the end of this journey through crisis, there are folks who will, through that journey, say, well, when we get to the end, it'll be back to business as usual. What do you think about that? Do you see business as usual, or have we worked already inadvertently at creating a new paradigm?
It's such a wonderful question. It also reminds me of another question I heard, which is, should all students write their college statements, essays on COVID-19?
Oh my! Go
And
into that one. I'd love to hear that.
you know, what a great thing to know that we can meet face to face in
Mhm.
different locations. What a great experience to know that if there's a student who wants an interview, I can do it from any location. That student can do it from any location. What a wonderful thing for students from further away to visit campuses electronically and virtually. I think I saw a cartoon where someone was on a Zoom meeting in the cartoon, and he was just said, "Oh, look, I didn't actually need all those meetings. I can just do it by email."
Yeah.
So have we evaluated all of those things that are fringy, extra? Um, Maybe we will come to a new vision of how this is done. I think at heart, the best of admissions has always been about the students
Mhm.
and making an environment where they're successful in meeting their intellectual and life goals. That's ideal. So I hope that that is one thing that we're reminded of in this time.
That's well
Yeah.
said. But you did open the door to another question, and that has to do with that essay and COVID. Uh,
Yes.
what do you think? Are we going to see tens of thousands of COVID essays now?
Yes, we are. There's simply no doubt about it. And I think that one of the parts of essays that makes me a little bit sad is it's always the sorrowful side of things. So it's a little bit like the student is learning a new language during this time. I love to think that students are taking advantage of some opportunity. Is a student creating an oral history with a family member?
Mhm.
Is a student reading some unusual book that there's now time to approach? Is the student learning how to write better because the teachers are available online? What is it that we are doing better? Are we I don't know, something to think about during this time, and certainly something to hold on to that we can improve and change in these times as well.
Again, well articulated, and I appreciate that. And my general thought about that also is that it matters less the topic and more the approach that one takes. So
I agree. I agree.
write about COVID, but you're able to help the reader understand how how the experience created new discoveries for you, etc. That
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the uniqueness that you can reveal. Well, this has been wonderful, Anne. I appreciate your
Oh,
take.
it's so nice to speak with you, Peter.
And I am sure that those who view this will or listen to this will have an opportunity to get a good insight into what's going on at Union. Is there is there any advice finally that you would add to the good advice you've already offered? But if you're in a situation with a nervous, bewildered 17-year-old trying to figure out what to make of what's going on in the world and how to apply it,
Mhm.
what would you say?
Wow. To your feelings in this time. It's These are strange times, uncertain times, and times that you've never experienced before.
Mhm.
Even the students today have not necessarily known an economic downturn. So I think the main thing is to remember that you are going to be able to achieve your goals and lead the life you want. You are going to go to college. You are going to get acquire a profession, make friends, meet, have a future, get married if that's what you choose. So you need to just think about your plan and direction. And if in this short time you're derailed, you'll find another avenue to that. And I know so many colleges are ready to work with students for that as well.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Is there a resource, web page, website that you'd like to refer folks to that would give them further insight into learning about union?
Well, union.edu is always a good place to start. If
Mhm.
you want to see all the videos and projects that we're up to, it's union.edu slash make union yours. That's what we want the students to do.
Cool, cool. Well, thanks so much again for joining us today. This has been delightful, and I've enjoyed being able to reflect with you on a lot of important topics of the day. Good luck to you and your team as you bring the class of 2024 to Union and continue on to the class of 2025.
Much
So,
appreciated.
to those of you who are listening in today, thank you for your time, and I hope that until we talk again, that you will be safe and have a great day. Take care, everyone.